The Rigvedic text has many hymns, and each hymn has many stanzas. Madam Blavatsky calls them stanzas. They are traditionally called, each stanza is traditionally called a mantram. So every hymn contains some mantrams. Let there be 7, 10, 20 or 24. Or sometimes we have a hymn having 52 mantrams, called the hymn of the Lord of the Year, because it gives us the secrets of the 52 weeks of the year. Like this, according to the subject matter that is dealt with in that hymn, it contains the number of mantrams. Here, Purusha Sukta is also one of the hymns of Rigveda. It is among the most important hymns of the Vedic literature. Hence, you find it in all the 4 Vedic texts. But originally it belongs to the Rigveda. It has 24 mantras or stanzas. It teaches us about Purusha, from which we have a derivative in English, person, because many of the Occidental and Oriental ancient languages belong to one family called the Indo-Germanic family of languages. We find the etymological roots in ancient Vedic Sanskrit for many of these words. For example, if you take the root Pitru in Sanskrit, the word father comes from it. If you take the word root matra in Sanskrit, the word mother and its dialects comes from this. If you take bhratra in Sanskrit, the word brother and its dialects come from it. If you take swasra, the root in Sanskrit, the word sister and its dialects come from it. And if you take the ancient Sanskrit word sunu, the word son and its dialects come from it. This is because the present Sanskrit and the present Indo-Germanic family of languages, they come from the same root language. And Vedic literature belongs to the Sanskrit language, which is more ancient than the present Sanskrit. And it may be the one of the few dialects of the root language which then existed. Still, philologists are in doubt, but for the present we find that many words we have in vogue will have their roots in the ancient language. So, you can take Purusha as a person. It may be the individual, it may be a personality, it may be the planetary person, solar person, the cosmic person. In all these magnitudes, the word is applied in this hymn. So the hymn explains us about Purusha, who is the indweller of everyone, and hence it has to give us necessarily the secrets of creation. Creation takes place in two levels, cosmic, anthropomorphic. So the Purusha Sooktam gives us the origin of the worlds and the origin of the individuals, that is the egos and the souls. Essentially also the origin of the devas, who preside over the mind and the senses and all the faculties of the individual on one side, and those who build the cosmic globes, the solar systems and the planetary construction on the other side. So there are two groups of devas, the cosmic devas and the microcosmic devas. In between we have those devas called planetary devas, just as we have our brother Rodolph here. They make the planetary synthesis between the solar systems and the individuals, and each of these three devas belong to 7 groups. So we have 7 into 3, 21 groups. That is, in short, the broad and rough topography of the devas. These 3 groups of devas make up the whole universe, and they are helped by another 5 groups of devas each. So we have in all 12 groups in each of these planes to give us 36 subdivisions of devas, giving rise to 360 degrees at every point. Yes, this is enough for the present. We will go into the text and try to understand. We cannot hope of clearing off the information of all these 36 groups of devas now in this short period, but we can have a good idea of all these things. Another information, among these 36 groups, 33 work as the subordinates of 3 other devas. Among them, 3 stand as the leader devas, having 11 leaders each under them. This is the way of grouping they follow for the convenience of the division of labor. And a group of these 33 devas separate themselves as 10 devas presiding over what we roughly understand numbers. They are called number devas. They are called Prajapatis or the progenitors. For example, they are the builders of the egos or the permanent atom. In the Old Testament, they are called the patriarchs. Of course, there are more than 10 because there are interpolations in the scriptures later. But generally the number gods are 10, as you see in the Kabbalah called the Sephiroth. Because the Kabbalah is one among the many translations of the one common text. That's why Madam Blavatsky gives such an importance to the Kabbalah in her secret doctrine. We should get familiarized with a science which teaches us that numbers are intelligences and powers, are persons working in nature. They are not created by us or by our mind, as I have shown yesterday. So, in every Indian scripture now, among the 18 scriptures called Purana and the two great scriptures called Itihasas, Mahabharata and Ramayana, in every book you find a self-sufficient working out hypothesis and information of the functions of these Prajapatis, etc. And with all these fellows, there will be the formation of the first cosmic egg in the beginning of every unit creation. Unit creation does not mean it is the only creation that takes place. Many millions and millions of unit creations take place every moment, and many unit creations die every moment, just as on this earth millions of people are being born and millions of people are dying every moment, but the number remains constant. So to the case with the universes. So God says, let there be light everywhere in each universe at a time, but not only once in one universe. So the egg gets its awakening when the 33 groups of Devas stand as the counterpart of the egg, cosmic egg. The egg contains light, or what we can call radiation of the ion, and the next layer energy which works as vibration of the ion, and the outermost layer the form, or what we call materialization. So as the egg takes its origin from something else, which we will see later, the Devas stand in three groups. We have the first group dividing into 12 leaders, the second group having 11 leaders, and the third group forming into 8 leaders, and one leader for beginning and one leader for ending. This fellow is called the Lord of the Day, and this fellow is called the Lord of the Night. How many fellows in total? 33. The other 3 are the grand leaders of all these 33, as I told you. So you have 12 lots of radiation called Adityas in the Veda. The 11 lots of vibrations called Rudras in the Veda. 11 Rudras. I hope it is more convenient for you to. So, the first group called 12 Aditya, is it visible here? Yes. Or is it more convenient to come to the front? You are able to see it here? That's okay. So, the first group are called Aditya, 12 Aditya. The second group, the lords of vibration, are called the 11 Rudra. And the lords of materialization are called 8 Vasus. Vasu, V-A-S-U, Vasu. These two fellows are called the twin devas, or the Ashwins. They are called Ashwins because they are compared with two horses for certain reasons. They are called Adityas because they are described as the sons of Aditi, means the deep in the Old Testament. Chaos in the Greek terminology. You have the origin of chaos from the theos, both forming the cosmos. So here Aditi means the darkness, the primordial darkness or the primordial deep. So she gives birth to these 12 fellows. That is how the Vedas describe. This is the background with which we have to proceed. Now, if you take any Sanskrit scripture in its original, you will find the same names in everything. It may be the Vedic literature or the Puranas or Itihasas. In all the 18 Puranas and the 2 Itihasas and the 4 Vedas and the Upanishads, you will find the same nomenclature. Therefore, when once you are familiar with these names, you can go into the text or a translation and you can leave off the other things from the translation and you can take directly the structure of the whole book just as Madame Blavatsky has taken it. That's why I made you familiarized with these names. And this egg is an assemblage of these fellows, these 3 groups. And it is said that this egg floats on the surface of the ocean, and this ocean is made up of little droplets. Each droplet is called a Gandharva, meaning a deva of music. A deva of music. These Gandharvas, millions and millions are there. They are described as the musicians, grand musicians who bring out the universe into existence. And they come down with the egg and they also function with the egg. As long as the egg exists, they also work. They make up the solar systems to form what we call the periodicities. That is the span of each solar system coming and going. And then the planetary periodicities. That is the speeds and the cycles of each planet. And then they make also the big periods called manvantaras. They also preside over the pulsation of space. They exist and function in the nucleus of every atom. The structure of the nucleus is due to these music devas. And then the structure of the cell, biological cell structure, and then the structure and function of what we call the circulatory and the respiratory centers, the heart and the lungs. And therefore they also preside over what we call music. Why? Music is the periodicity and the principle behind it. That's why they are called the devas of music. They are the grand musicians. The Puranas describe that these devas present the sun god with the 7-stringed instrument to conduct the music. They call this fellow sun god, boy, come here and take this, they say. The concept of the Apollo's lyre is the same. So this is about the egg. And these periodicities produced by these devas of music, it is the same thing which we called yesterday the meters that produce the measures of space and time. Do you know how we are able to measure space and time? Because we discovered measures. What do we require in order to discover measures? We require a measure consciousness, the concept of measure. So that gives us measures. Otherwise we can't discover what we call the measure or weight or anything to measure. You know, in the book of Proverbs, in the Holy Bible, you find a mantra which no fellow suspected that it was a mantra. It says, God has measured everything with measure and counted everything with number. That is how it comes into the translation. Do you suspect any meaning in the sentence? God has measured everything with measure. That means He has given us what we call the concept of measure, and then we began to produce measures and we measure it. We have a glass to measure, but we should have a concept to produce a glass. Like that, numbers also. When numbers come to our mind, we count things with numbers. Like that, these fellows are the lords of the meters or chandas, and all these fellows along with the egg, they exist in the form of manifest state, and again they go into unmanifest state. Again they come from the unmanifest to the manifest, from manifest to the unmanifest. It is a pulsation from manifestation to unmanifestation, and from unmanifestation to from manifestation again back to unmanifestation. The process is called pulsation. In these two stages, all these groups exist. We think that they do not exist when it is unmanifest. We think that in space there is nothing, because to our mind and senses it is nothing. To itself, we should have some trained way of thinking about these two aspects. Take the tree as an example of the second one, and the seed as the example of the first one. in the seed, is there the existence of the tree or not? It is there. So always it is there, but it is there in an unmanifest state. That is, to the senses and mind it is not there. To itself it is there. So in these two states, these devas exist. In the unmanifest state, they are called sadhyas. In the manifest state, they are called siddhas. You will find these words used in the Purusha sooktam. Therefore, let us have a rough idea of them before we go there. So all these devas exist either in the sadhya state or in the siddha state. For example, there are 360 degrees around a point. If you take a point and measure, you will find 360 degrees. But before you trace the point there, were they there or not? The degrees. They were there, but they were in an unmanifest state. The moment you point out, around the point they are there working into stimulation. These are some of the properties of space as they describe. Now we will go to the text. With these basic concepts in mind, and yes, yes, the whole egg pulsates from unmanifestation to manifestation.
At the same time, or some days is that unmanifest?
Alternation. It alternates. Each egg has its own states of alternation between manifestation and unmanifestation.
And the day that...
No, each egg has its own day and its own night.
Yeah.
Each egg goes into unmanifestation periodically and again comes into manifestation.
Yeah. And the devas within that egg.
Pardon?
The devas that compose that egg.
Devas.
Yes.
Yes, they are with the egg. When it is manifestation, they awake.
They are siddhas.
Pardon?
When it is manifest, they are siddhas.
Yes.
When the egg manifests, they become siddhas.
Siddhas.
When the egg disappears, they become sadhyas.
Sadhyas. Exactly. And when they are in the siddha state, some of them remember themselves. All of them remember themselves. But when they are in the sadhya state, they do not remember themselves because they are asleep. And only the lords of music, they remember themselves because they have no sadhya state. Only the lords of music called Gandharvas, they always remember themselves, they have no sleep. Whereas these fellows go into sleep, the Gandharvas, they are beyond pulsation because they preside over pulsation. They preside over the function of pulsation. Hence they have no sleep. Whereas the other devas, that is the 33, they go into sleep in the night and again they wake up in the morning to take up their work. Now, of course, concept of Nataraja, etc., they are the symbolic representations of these phenomena. Now we are directly dealing with the phenomena. If we go into symbolism, it is something different. If we go into the Puranas, they personify these things. Now we have not entered into any personification. So if we go into personification, you will get the characters of Nataraja and his dance and all these things. For example, Lord Shiva in the form of Nataraja is described as having two halves, that is manifestation and unmanifestation, and he dances. It is only a symbolic representation of what happens. Now we take up the first stanza. These are the first two lines of the stanza. Third line. This is the fourth. Each of these 24 stanzas are composed of 4 lines of 8 syllables each in Sanskrit. So each stanza contains 32 syllables each. Hence the meter is called Anushtup. It's only name, but each meter is significant about something in the stanzas, which we will see a bit later. If there are only 3 lines, we call it Gayatri meter. If there are 4 lines, we call it Anushtup meter. The word Sahasra means 1000.